Sorry about that, guys. I didn't realize I had hit the camera. So I am back now, coffee in hand, probably a little later than I should be drinking it, with my very adorable Gudetama coffee cup. It's my favorite. Now, we're almost done with finishing the outer shell, basically. We have just putting the front and the back piece together at the sides, and then also doing the straps. So I'm going to go ahead and just skip to step 7 really quickly. For A and C, they have you use this strap guide to cut out your fabric pieces to make straps. I don't want to make straps for 2 reasons. The first being, it really sucks and it's not fun and it takes a lot of time. And the second reason is because I have ribbon that I actually think looks a lot prettier with this than it would if I actually paired it with fabric straps. So here's my fabric and here's the ribbon. So I actually love the red ribbon and it makes the red of the cardinal pop out a little bit more. So I am using that instead. So I'm going to lay out my guide here. And I'm doing mine in the size 12. So I'm just going to let me straighten out the end of this piece. Just straighten it so that it goes right across. Okay. And then I'm just going to cut this the length of the strap guide. And of course you're going to do that twice. So here's my first one. Needs to go right there. And then you can either measure this out again, or you can do what I'm going to do and actually just use your previous one. I prefer to pair strap to strap because I think you get a more even, or not more even, but I should say a more matching set that way. So let me just cut that. Okay. Now that just saved me probably about 2 hours worth of work, at least 1 hour if not 2 hours, and those will be my straps. So set those off to the side. Now to finish up step 6, which is where we were before I took my coffee break, we're basically going to be putting together that large front piece that we made and the large back piece that we made at the sides. Move this stuff. Oh, I feel so much better now that I'm drinking coffee. Just made me instantly perky. Now I just have to be really careful I don't get fabric in my coffee. So here's my back piece. And then here is my front piece. And just make sure that you have top to top. And then start pinning that across. I can't wait to see this when it's done. Match up the notches. I prefer to do this standing, but my back is starting to hurt because I've been doing it for so many hours back to back now. I also cut all this fabric out this morning, and I still have the lining pieces to cut out, but it took me all morning just to cut out the nice fabric piece here, so I'm sitting down and giving my back a break. Okay, so I just pinned the hem like I have been. Now I'm going to find the place where I have my tilt. It's right there. Okay, and then start pinning that. A couple of pins in there. Alright, now let's finish pinning the top here. Ooh, this one's definitely going to require a little bit of fitting. Okay, so here, I'm going to take this Yeah, my top pieces aren't wanting to match up here, so let's put this back. Hopefully I won't have to clip this. I don't want to clip this. Let me see if I can fit it. Take some. There we go. Yep, gonna have to stretch this one just a little bit. Okay. Well, that took some pulling and repinning, but now it's good. After this, I'm meeting a whole bunch of my friends downtown in the East Village to have dinner. It's another reason I'm having coffee. Otherwise, I'm going to be sleeping at the dinner table, and they are just not going to be happy with me about that. Okay, and then my hem that I already pinned, I'm going to do the same thing I did with all the other pieces and pin it in the middle. Always going from the middle of the next biggest section. Alright. And I think with this one I actually am going to go ahead and pin the other side too before I stitch. Ooh, it's a big piece of fabric now. Okay. Oh. Pin the top. Match your notch. Position your lilt, or your tilt, your lilt. Position your tilt about right there. Okay. Pin together the hem. One or two pins at the hem. And then start pinning your middles together. I should tell you guys too, while I was brewing my coffee, I went ahead and pressed all of my seams open from both of my back and my front pieces. The bigger the fabric piece, the more interesting life becomes. side. Sounds like my neighbor just got home. One or two more pins down here. Actually, let's go ahead and put in 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and now this is ready to stitch. Ah, more coffee. I love coffee so much, probably too much. All right, 5/8 seam. One more thing I'm going to do here. This is just for me. I am going to take the length and change the length to 5.0. So basically, I'm going to do a basting stitch from the top of this to about the middle of the waist, and that's because I am almost positive once I get this on and do a fitting that I will probably have to adjust it, and I don't want to take out a permanent stitch because it will take so much longer. So if you know that you have your pattern cut at the size that you need, then go ahead and do a stay stitch. If you think you're going to have to do a little bit of fitting like I am, then I would recommend that you baste from the top to the waist. So putting this on 5 for me and basting at 5/8. And I am going to do that on both sides. Oh, those are my scissors that just fell. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to doing a regular stitch. Back stitch a little bit. Give the machine room to do its work. Making sure you only have those 2 layers. Your piece is getting really big now, so make sure you're not overcrowding your machine. And if you guys haven't reloaded your bobbin, make sure you keep checking your bobbin to make sure that you're not running out of thread. You don't want to be stitching a seam just to find out that you've run out of thread, and then you have to repin it, etc., etc. Alright, I'm going to switch this back to a basting stitch so that I can fit it more easily, stitching at 5/8. Okay, now I'm going to switch to a permanent stay stitch. Back stitch a little. Keep moving your fabric upward so that your machine doesn't get crowded. Recheck every now and then, make sure you only have those 2 pieces of fabric. Okay. Now, before I press those, the next step, I believe, is sewing those straps in. So, okay, we did 7, which was preparing the straps. Now we're on 8. To turn, fasten a heavy thread, blah blah blah. That's if you're still making your straps, so we're skipping now to 9. Pin shoulder straps to middle back, matching squares as shown, and baste in place. Okay, so you're putting them in the right side of the back. So that's where your zipper is, in the back. And if you made all of your markings correctly on your pattern, you should now have a little marking that shows where you're going to be putting those. And if you can't find it, make sure to look on the inside as well. I'm trying to find mine now because sometimes the mark will end up in your seam. So it's going to be on the wrong side of the fabric. There's one, okay? Now my ribbon doesn't have a wrong or a right side, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it in. Okay, so it should hang like this. You're still sewing right side to right side, and you're going to be sewing the ribbon down so that once it gets inside the seam, it will pop out like that to hold your dress up. So it should go this way, okay? And then just match it up as best as you can. That looks pretty good. And pin it. Okay. And then you can baste it using that your longest stitch. I'm actually going to go ahead and sew mine in. And instead of basting it at 5/8, I'll baste it at a little bit less than 5/8 because I don't want to run the risk of it showing once I finish closing up the lining in the right side. So I don't want that seam to show. So I'm just going to stitch this. I'm not going to back stitch, I'm just going to stitch it in there very quickly. Okay? And now for the other side. Find your mark, put in your strap, match it up as best you can. Doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Pin it, and then just quickly run that through and stitch it. Okay, so that puts my dress together on the outside with my straps. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my iron and I'm going to iron my side seams that I just made. So iron the sides, and then I am going to roughly try this on, and I'll just pin the straps so that I can see kind of fit-wise what's going on here. So let me try this on and I will show you guys roughly what it looks like on me thus far. So here it is so far. This is the beginning of my dress with my tennis shoes and my turtleneck because I'm super suave like that. So here's the back. So we still have work to do. But you can see if you just pin the straps in kind of where it's going to fit on you. And I can already tell I'm going to have to take the straps in a little bit for me. This one needs to be tighter. So you just want to pin it. Oh goodness. Oh, that's right. I reheated my coffee. Be quiet. Okay, so I pinned the straps in so I could feel and mark kind of where I need them to be. And the other thing I wanted to see was how much I was going to have to take it in. So I almost always have to take my dresses in at the sides. So I tried it on the way that I would wear it with the right side of the fabric on the outside so that I could get a general idea of what it looks like. What I'm going to do now is take the dress off and put it on inside out so that I can pin the top and the sides where I need to take it in for me. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here's sort of the dress so far. I have basically turned mine inside out and put it on because it's easier to fit that way. And then I pulled the straps forward and I pinned them kind of where I feel they're going to need to be for me. So what I'm going to do now, which I always have to do on almost every garment that I make for myself, is I'm going to take my pins and I'm going to start tapering where I need this to come in to fit me. And I can already tell this strap needs to come down just slightly. Okay. A lot of the straps you're just going to have to do by how it feels on you. There's no magic perfect way to do that, just feel if it feels secure or not on your body. And then the way that I do mine on the side is I grab from both sides until it's roughly in where it needs to be, and then I start pinning. It's nice if you have somebody who can do this for you. I don't, so I have to do it for myself. Okay, so now I'm going to come closer to the camera so that you can see a little better. So I'm just going to, am I too close now? Just keep tapering. Always grab both sides, otherwise you'll pin one more and then you won't get the same amount on the other side. There's one. Let me grab another pen. Okay. And also keep in mind, you do have a lining to add after this. So don't make it so tight that once you get the lining in, it's too tight or it's uncomfortable. Just a smidge here. My neighbors have been very active today. Okay, that's looking better. Just a little bit at the side. Okay, that takes care of that. Okay, so everything feels pretty good up here now. I am also going to fill in the back. The back feels pretty good to me. Now, one thing you can consider, let me see if you can see this. Yeah, so I have a little bit of space here, and sometimes I take that in because I want something fitted, but you don't always have to do that. I'm pretty happy with how this is laying, and I think once I get the lining in that I will need that space. So I'm not going to touch that. I'm just going to taper up here, and I'm going to mark where my straps are, but not sew the straps yet. And then I will go into the zipper, because I'm happy with the zipper placement now that I've seen it, and I'm going to do that permanent stay stitch on my zipper. So let's take this off and do the fitting part. Okay, overall I'm very pleased with how that fit. So now what we're going to do, first let me move my coffee before I have a tragic accident. I'm going to go in where I put the pins, and I'm going to stitch and follow that pin line into my basting, because remember I basted the sides. So I'm going to go into that basting, and then I'm going to permanently stay stitch over the rest of this until I meet the other stay stitch that I already did. Okay, here we go. Make sure that this is set on the normal stitch. Okay. Okay, now I'm getting into my original basting stitch, which I'm now making a permanent stay stitch. Okay, and I can see my stay stitch now. So I will just stay stitch right on top of that, back stitch a little bit, and then take it out. So that's one piece. Now what you'll have to do, I'm going to stitch all of these before I do it, but you'll need to go in where you had that original basting stitch, and you'll need to cut out those stitches just until you get to your new stitch. So basically this basting here that I don't need anymore, I'm going to take that out. But I want to finish doing all of my fitting for the entire top before I do that. So one other place that I had to fit was slightly over the bust area. So that's going to be the next one that I do on that side. and I'm just going to do that same thing. I'm going to go where my pin is, and I'm just going to do a stay stitch over that. And this piece I had already stay stitched, so I just have to do the top here and then do a little back stitch here. And then once that's done, I will remove the original outer stitch that is not the correct fit for me. So here we go. That takes care of one side. Now I'm going to go to the other side and I'm going to do the exact same thing that I just did for that side. Keep checking your bobbin to make sure that you don't run out of thread. Okay, there's one. Let me find the other. Here's the other. And this will be the last one of the 4 that I changed. So, into the machine, do a fast little stay stitch, back stitch a little, and then follow my pins as a guide. Okay. Where are my... oh, scissors. Okay, so now I'm going to take out those original stitches that I did not need. This could be fast or tedious for you depending on how much of an alteration you needed to make. Okay. Ooh, my hands are shaking a little bit because of the coffee. I love it. See, this is that little bit of stay stitch that I have to take out. That's why if you have a section that you know you're going to have to fit, it's always better to baste it because it will just save you so much time. And once you remove these stitches, you will also want to go back over to your ironing board and repress them. Okay, that takes care of that one. And then my other one, this is a basting one, so this one shouldn't take as long. Usually with the basted ones, if you can just pull the ends out a little, as long as you didn't stay stitch them, which you shouldn't have. See this? And just pull them out. That's why basting is awesome. There, that one's done. So those are fast. Go ahead and take out my... Okay, here's the other basted one. This one should be quick as well. Just take that out a little bit so that I can grab it. I'll just pull that basting out. Love it. So fast. Okay, and then the last one that I stay stitched. Take that one out. Take a little bit longer. Okay. Oh, this one's being a little bit more stubborn. Okay. See, these are the times whenever I think sewing really is just a practice of patience. I think a lot of people don't sew because they think it's really difficult, but honestly, I don't think sewing is difficult. I think it is a test of patience. It's just a tedious process, but you can either be the type of person who takes pleasure in the process, or the kind of person who just becomes frustrated with it. I think a lot of that just comes down to the type of personality that you have and what the things are that you enjoy. Okay, now this one's good. So I am going to take these to my ironing board and I'm going to repress them so that they look nice on the outside. And then another good thing to do now that you have that done is to go through all of the seams and cut off any of these extra threads that you don't need, okay? Okay, so one more thing that you should do before you go press is you should do your permanent stitch on your zipper if you basted it like I did. Just make sure whenever you're doing your permanent stitch that you start next to the plastic part, because you don't want to take that upper part, this. You want to leave that alone, so you're just going to sew from that plastic bit and downward. Mine was stubborn there for a minute, didn't want to move. So worried about my coffee. Make sure I have this zipped all the way down. Should have done that before I started. Yes, it's zipped all the way down. Okay, now I'm going to taper off and start going to the outside here. And then do a little back stitch. Alright. And then I'm going to do that for the other side as well. Alright, I'm just about out of thread, so I'm going to change out my bobbin. I'll be right back.